really around those tailored and very objective driven journeys. And so if we think about this is, an opportunity really to take a specific cohort of partner or a cohort of different personas on a specific journey to achieve a very specific objective. So Balaji, I'd like to pick on your experience here. Any ideas on what those journeys could potentially look like?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And I think what's implied in that question also is, as you think about the partner journey and the slide that Margaret showed earlier, around those 6-7 steps of going from identification to specialization. I think what this question implies when you start talking about cohorts is that maturity of partners, right? And some could be very nascent, immature, so to speak. Some could be middle of the ground of the journey, and some could be very much mature and ready to be specialized. So I'm going to give you 3 or 4 examples that I was thinking about the other day when I found out I was going to talk about this particular topic. I think for those smaller resellers, those smaller partners, those partners who've just joined you, I think for them it's very important for you to start getting them on a cohort together and as a journey. And an example I'll give you is I had a distributor down in Brazil in one of my other companies. And so we had a program with them where they assembled or gathered maybe 10, 15 partners who had just joined or who were nascent in their journey. And they would take them under their wing and spend time with them over the next 12 months, enabling them, getting them skilled and getting them certified. And we would actually have a little graduation ceremony after 12 months to get them into the next tier. So that's one example as a cohort of sort of smaller partners who've just joined you, and you need to kind of start taking them through the journey. It made it fun. It made them all motivated. It truly created a cohort. Another example I'll give you is maybe some partners that are more mature. And so if you guys are working with global system integrators, regional system integrators, even MSPs and even VARs, a lot of them have a focus on industry and vertical. And so one of the things that I've done in the past is be able to put together a playbook around certain industries that are very important to my companies that I was in. Could be banking, it could be media and entertainment, it could be telecommunications, whatever your strong vertical focus is. There, I bet you probably would have recruited and onboarded partners who also are very much in those types of industries. So creating a cohort around vertical focus, creating a playbook, creating use cases for those partners to be able to learn and understand, and then have a rinse and repeat with them so they can go out to market and be able to drive those solutions within the vertical industry as well. It was very successful as well. So I would encourage you guys to think about it that way too. The other thing was customer success. I think Margaret mentioned this to me the other day, and certainly something that we all care about, and especially in the SaaS world where recurring revenue is so important, is, how do we make sure that our partners are part of that journey of driving customer outcomes, making sure that renewals, cross-sells are in place, and we get all of us sort of benefit from that recurring revenue. So training your partners, enabling them, again, as they get more mature around cross-sell and upsell and focusing and helping you on renewals, I think is another type of playbook that you can create to be able to drive success, again, with some cohorts of partners. Some partners might not be interested in the renewals piece, some do, right? And some are very specialized in it. So focus on that as well. The last thing, of course, is very important for all of us these days more and more is the cloud marketplaces. No matter where you are on Google Cloud, Azure, AWS, Oracle, whatever it might be, super important. So create a co-sell playbook for your internal sales teams, your internal finance teams, internal order management teams, and the respective marketplace that you're working with. So you guys go hand in hand down this journey to make it easier for a partner, the marketplace, and you to all be aligned on driving success for customers and getting all those billions of dollars of cloud commits that are out there waiting for you. So hopefully those examples help you guys. But again, cohorts are kind of fun if you can do it right. Back to you,
Yeah.
Margaret.
Yeah, I love the idea of the marketplace because there's actually a lot of steps that you need to do to achieve that, right? You know, from for a partner to create the listing, depending on how they are, whether they're ISV or a consult partner. There's a number of, let's say, admin-y type steps. There's a lot of marketing steps. There's a lot of stakeholder alignment, as you rightly pointed out, getting finance involved, getting the sellers involved, understanding implications in terms of comp and margin models. You know, there's all sorts of stakeholders involved. So I think a partner journey in taking a partner who has never transacted or engaged with or sold on a marketplace to actually getting to the point where they are not only actively listing and using and selling and bringing customers into the marketplace, but then they have put the right foundations within their own organization because they've been on this guided journey in order to do that. So I think that's a spectacular example of how you can take that partner into a new area, right? And that's where that these kind of really tailored driven journeys really come into play, I think. So yeah, Balaji, great insights, spot on as always. Mark, Phil, anything you'd like to add to that? Any examples from your experience? Any ideas? Listening to Balaji?
Yeah, let me jump on just one point of that for a minute that I think is a pretty important bit of context too. So as a supplier, as you think about your partner programs, you're thinking about how, you know, my goal is to create revenue, and it's to create revenue by moving product, by moving whatever it is that we are providing. And sometimes we forget that our partners have their own solutions that they sell, and that your product is a piece of their solution, not necessarily the motion that you would use to sell the product would be the same way that your partner might present it. So when you think about your mutual goals, one of the things as a supplier that we always counsel our suppliers on, how do you align the goal that you have with your suppliers, with your partner's goal? Because your partner's goal is to move as many of their solutions through the pipe as they possibly can. And if your conversation you want to have with them is all about how you would promote the product you're providing, that's really just a part of their solution, and maybe the way that they articulate the value of your product is very differently than the way you articulate it. Getting those goals aligned in a way so that you're both working towards the success of that partner is an important piece of how you align mutual goals. It can't just be that your goal is to move units and their goal is to sell their solutions. They have to align in a way that makes it a meaningful partnership for it to really work.
100%, actually spot on, and thanks for calling that out, Mark. I think you're so right, and I think, you know, we call this objective-driven journeys, and making sure there's not a disconnect in those objectives, because otherwise you can have the best partner journey in the world, and if it's not aligned, they're not going to invest the time and effort into it, right? So as always, having empathy for the partner and understanding how that partner goes to market. Phil, you spoke about MSPs. I think this is absolutely a classic example of that in play, right? Their go-to-market is very different from a supplier or vendor. Phil, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I just want to double click on one of the things that Balaji said, and this is something that we have really invested a lot of time and effort into, and that is around, like Balaji said, the verticalization, especially when it comes to enablement and playbooks. These are things, not only sales playbooks, but engineering, pre-sales playbooks for our partners as they kind of start to dissect verticals. And we have partners that are specific to certain verticals like healthcare or manufacturing or retail. You're providing tailored enablement for those verticals and playbooks around each of those, because they have very different sales motions and pains and drivers that drive implementation of products in those verticals. And then as a kind of a tangential value there is really segmentation also. So not only verticals, but then we have partners that operate in different segments of the customer base, from enterprise to mid-market to SMB. And this is something that we've really focused on at iGel, is as we've kind of catered our sales teams to these segments, we notice that we have partners that operate specifically in one or two or all three of those segments. So being able to provide sales materials, playbooks, enablement around those specific segments of customers, because SMB customers are much different than enterprise customers, that are much different than this corporate mid-market customers. So being able to understand that and understand the type of skills and enablement that you need to provide to attack those segments is just as valuable as understanding the verticals in which they operate.
Yeah, absolutely spot on. And I think that again goes to the teaching to fish, right? So whether it's, you know, I'm often surprised how very few will share win stories. How did we actually win in this industry? Or, yeah, what to look out for, where we're going to see competitive landmines, for example, and you know, educating on your ideal customer profile within a specific sector. You're going to have different personas to target. So, you know, all of those kind of fundamentals, I think, need to be brought into partners as we look to go very specific into very specific markets, right? So, yeah, great insights again. Thank you, everybody.